We're going.
Accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States. The silent majority is silent no more. These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice. Your voice radio. Your voice radio.
Good evening. I am Cari Kelemen, filling in for Bill Mitchell, and this is Your Voice Radio. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tonight, I have three fabulous gentlemen from all around the country, starting with, at the top, Dave from New York. How are you tonight, Dave?
Hey, doing great. Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome to have you. And then to his right, I think, in the Brady Bunch, Hollywood Squares, is Carrie Smith from Ohio. How are you doing tonight, Carrie?
I'm doing great, and thanks for inviting me on, Carrie.
Excellent. Happy to have you. We'll be calling you Coach tonight because we have two Carries. And then next to me, I think down on the bottom of the squares, is Jodan Gorman from Nashville, Tennessee. How are you tonight, Jodan?
Well, I'm on the bottom, so.
The South will rise again.
Yeah.
That's right.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, and he is
it's
Kentucky, right? You're from Kentucky?
I'm actually from Kentucky, yes, but I'm in Tennessee now, big stretch and the different accents,
You can tell
indistinguishable.
the minute you cross the border.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's great to have everyone here on our Sunday night roundtable, and I wanted to start with Carrie Smith. There was an event that happened this morning
it was last night. Well, I guess it would be this morning if you want to get technical.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead and tell us about it,
after
Carrie.
midnight, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was actually in Youngstown today, and I was up early for an event that I was attending, and of course, my Twitter's blowing up about a shooting in Cincinnati, and I thought, oh gosh, I better look into this. And, the way it was reported, the way you guys probably all saw it, is that there was a mass shooting is what they call it. I guess technically that would be the correct way to call it. 15 people, maybe it's up to 16 now, but at the time it was 15 people shot, one fatality, and it was at a club. And, this is the kind of information they gave. It was very limited, and it led you to believe, or at least it led me to believe, that this would be kind of similar, maybe an attempt at kind of a copycat of the Pulse nightclub.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, being familiar with Cincinnati, since that's where I live, I decided, well, let's find out the details, and maybe I can find out more through my contacts and then report on this. And the first thing I did was look up where the club was, and instantly I knew there was no way this was Islamic terrorism, because the location, Cincinnati isn't a giant metropolis, but it has a sizable downtown area, and this is way on the outskirts, pretty far from the downtown area, where you would assume clubs are located, where the popular clubs, which I would consider would be the kind of targets that Islamic terrorists, whether it be a lone wolf or somebody that was given instructions from ISIS or whatever, would target. No, this was kind of rural. So I thought, all right, I got to find out why there were so many people shot. And so luckily, it just so happens that the venue that I was attending this event had a friend of mine from Cincinnati who is in SWAT, and he has friends in the homicide unit. And I said, can you give me a quick update on what's going on? And he said, sure, I'll get right back to you. And I actually did a Periscope on it. But what we found, if you did not watch the Periscope, was that it was locals. Locals were shooting at each other. And it turns out this bar, or club, if you will, is a hot spot for this kind of crazy activity. It turns out these cops are responding to this venue with shootings all the time. So I was kind of surprised to hear that. I live there, and I never hear about shootings at this place, but he said, oh yeah, we're there all the time because of reports of shootings. Turns out there was a dispute amongst these groups of people earlier in the day, and it continued to the nightclub. And I'm going to go ahead and speculate what probably happened based on what we know on the facts, which is that you have some people that got into a fight during the day. They probably go to this club every weekend. And knowing that they were going to be there, they probably decided, well, because of this dispute we had, we better arm ourselves. And by the way, all my friends, you guys better arm yourselves too. The other side probably thought the same thing. They get there. The dispute continues, as was reported. And probably everybody pulled out all their weapons and started shooting, because it just seems kind of weird that 14 people are injured, or 15 if you count the fatality, with gunshot fire, and it not be an act of terrorism. Turns out it was kind of gang related somewhat. And I use the phrase gang related very loosely, because we're not a gang town. It was, groups of local friends that just they're involved in thug activity, if you will. Okay. And this is what happened. So that's what happened with the Cincinnati shooting today. Absolutely no connection to Islamic terror whatsoever.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Who was the fatality?
It was one of the shooters, I believe. But I mean, so many people shot. It could have been anybody, really. Any one of those. You get hit with a bullet. If it hits the wrong spot, you're going to be a fatality. So many people were shot. It's probably a miracle that there was only one fatality. This club is a mess. It's jam-packed every weekend, apparently, from what I hear. And the parking is terrible, so people park in fire lanes. So when the first responders came, they couldn't even get in. Oh, dear. So multiple violations of this place. And then I heard also from my cousin Brian, because he did a little research, that this place allows for 18 and over. So, we used to have. I didn't know that.
It used to be
and
21, wasn't it?
Well, you can have certain clubs can do 18 and up, but the bar service is different. Like if you show your ID and you're over 18 but under 21, you get a wristband so that you can't order drinks, or maybe they put an X on your hand or whatnot. So that way, but that's kind of common with the 18 and up clubs. And one thing I've learned from clubbing in my younger days is the ones that allow adults 18 to 20 are usually the ones where there's always problems, but that's this one. So
Carrie, what's the name of this club in case anybody's traveling to the Cincinnati area?
Well, it's Cameo, and I'll tell you about how remote this is as far as it being in Cincinnati. If you're not from Cincinnati, you're probably not going to find it unless you're specifically looking for it. You're not going to accidentally run across this place and say, "Wow, club, let's go and dance." This place is way off the beaten path. So,
gotcha. Well, Joe Dan, we haven't heard from you in a while. It's been a while. You used to be a regular on the show, last summer kind of thing. Yeah. And we just haven't seen you in a while. Well, it's maybe since last fall. So how have you been?
Well, I've been good. I actually had a heart attack and they diagnosed me with diabetes, but fortunately I didn't burst into flames. So, but I'm back and kicking butt. I'm actually very healthy now. I've lost weight and just doing really well. My show which is Intellectual Frog Legs. We've kind of slowed down a little bit in the episodes, but we're about to pick that back up again. So, hey, we're rolling again. So
okay, just in case people are unfamiliar with Joe Dan Gorman, let me tell you, he does about 20 to 22 minute videos about once every other week. Is that about right?
They're more like once every 3 weeks or so, because it's a lot of work.
Right. And they are, I'm trying to describe it the best way I know how. They're kind of like a cultural, political time capsule in video. Would that be a good description?
That's one way. I've heard people say it's like a conservative daily show or like a cross between Saturday Night Live and Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to learn something, but you're going to laugh while you do it. You're going to laugh. So jam-packed. Yeah, very, very funny. Tell you, but it is so full of, and it moves so quickly that you have to watch each episode 1, 2, 3, 4 times before you can absorb it all. But you will laugh. That I guarantee. Very, very funny stuff. So tell me, Joe Dan, tell me a little bit more about the how you go about putting these episodes, these video. I guess you call yourself a vlogger. Would you be a vlogger?
You know what? I don't even know what the hell it is. Hell, the truth is, I lost everything a few years ago, and I had to do something to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I just started putting together these little videos, little smart aleck commentary,
Mm-hmm.
and people started sending me money. Cool.
Well,
but it's really, there's a lot of editing involved,
mm-hmm.
and I try. I don't know if you're watching the show, you'll notice I'm not super specific on news items,
mm-hmm.
because especially nowadays the dynamics can change. Everything is so fluid,
Mm-hmm.
and like I was getting ready to release a new episode, and then all of a sudden we had Trump come out with, they had the healthcare thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bomb dropped by David Nunes,
Yes.
that Obama's been spying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a shocker, isn't it? But it's just that changed everything. Just like, ugh. And although I don't get specific, it still changes the overall dynamics of the whole picture.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. But it takes me about a week or a few days to do all the editing before I upload it to YouTube and Vimeo.
Gotcha. So they can find you on YouTube and Vimeo, and what's also...
Well, actually, the best place to go is to intellectualfroglegs.com.
Okay.
Because sometimes YouTube will block my videos.
Oh, no. Why would
yeah.
they do that?
Well, they love conservatives,
Anyway, that's fantastic. When's your next episode coming out?
Well, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 days. I've just redid a big chunk of it, and as soon as we get done here, I'm going back into the edit booth.
Gotcha. Well, Dave from New York. Dave, I met on Twitter on Election Day. I believe you were doing push-ups for Trump. Is that right?
That was one of my things I was doing. Yeah, I was on the side of the road doing push-ups for every car that would honk by.
Yeah.
I had a sign that said honk, push-ups for Trump. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And, I was so sore for like 3 days after. I could barely walk.
I'll bet.
Well, it was also kind of rainy, too. I just remember seeing
Yeah.
you, and you had, like, mud all over the front of you because
was
you were
great,
dropping
man.
and doing it. Yeah, it was fantastic. So tell me, what is your what do you see happening this week? What do you see? You're keeping a very, very close watch on the Senate. So tell us what's up there.
Okay, well, the main thing right now is Gorsuch. The Gorsuch hearings, and I don't know if anybody has watched Supreme Court hearings, but as far as Supreme Court hearings goes, this was a masterful performance by Gorsuch. It was one of the best hearings I've watched in displays. So I anticipate that he will be confirmed and on the bench by April 17th, which is when the court starts hearing cases again. So we're right on track. They didn't lay a glove on him. He was masterful. I'd encourage anybody, if you missed the Gorsuch hearings, to watch them. Was incredible. It was incredible. So we're going to have Gorsuch by the 17th. We have a couple of the last two cabinet picks are coming through soon. That would be Acosta for labor and Perdue for agriculture. There's a lot of delays on Perdue, some unnecessary paperwork filings and stuff like that. I expect we'll see some of that with Gorsuch too after the hearings and after the questions. The Democrats, it's typically going to be the Democrats. They're going to file further questions that Gorsuch is going to have to answer in writing to their satisfaction. So that's probably going to be a week for them to file paperwork and delay type motions. But I imagine he's going to come to a vote not this week but the week after, and I look for him to be confirmed in early April.
That's excellent. Well, tell me on Gorsuch, I heard that Chuck Schumer was going to use the nuclear option and filibuster. I mean, he was going to filibuster, sorry. Yeah, but
they've already he said that McConnell's already stated prior that he's going to go with the nuke if he has to.
Okay.
No, Gorsuch will be confirmed early April. That's there's nothing they can do to stop it. There's nothing. So that's wonderful news. Oh, and as far as legislation is concerned, there's 7. Trump's been so busy with this healthcare thing, but he's got 7 repeal bills on his desk. They're all repeal of Obama regulation. There's a total of 7 of them. So I expect a flurry of signings coming up this week.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Joe Dan.
So are they just like repealing parts? Is that what you're saying? The 7 different parts or something?
No, 7 regulation repeals. Has nothing to do with Obamacare. These are Obama regulations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like there's a Department of Labor regulation that basically it affected private businesses only, and to implement that regulation is $400 million a year for the private sector only. There's a Department of EDU reg that was passed the Senate that basically it forces Common Core on states that don't want it. There's a BLM 2.0 repeal, was the Bureau of Land Management, a really excessive federal overreach. There's a Department of Defense regulation that was passed that was repealed, and that one will save the defense industry about $500 million a year. So that will help in our military spending bill. That bill is in the Senate as well, the big $500 billion military appropriation. So the Senate hasn't got to that yet. I actually think the Senate has done a pretty decent job getting the nominees through and legislation at the same time. But right now there's 7 joint resolutions that are on Trump's desk that he'll be signing them soon.
Great. That's
what do you make of
fantastic.
the argument that they are some people are trying to make that since our president who is going to select our lifelong SCOTUS pick here, since he's under investigation and possibly a fraudulent president because he was picked by Vladimir Putin, that we should slow down with lifelong picks of his choosing?
What do I make of that? I don't make anything of it. Tough luck.
Yeah, that's the kind of arguments I'm hearing on Twitter now from some of the Democrats.
Oh my goodness, they just don't have.
Well, that's what they do. It's what they they just want to. Well, everybody knows that they're just distracting everybody and trying to just delegitimize Trump, and people are sick of it. We're sick of it.
Right.
Tell them.
Stop it now.
Well, it's fake too. The accusations are completely fake and made up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, then you look at it with the Nunez bomb that just dropped, and they were spying. Obama spied on everybody. He spied on Merkel. He spied on France. He spied on Congress. He spied on the Associated Press. But he wouldn't spy on Trump.
Yeah.
Well, with regards to Nunez, he's in some hero that came out with this. His hand was forced by Kelemen and Montgomery. Montgomery is the guy that's sitting on like 400,000 emails, 6 hard drives. He's the CIA whistleblower. He's the one that sent the letter to Nunez and say, hey, you need to talk about this stuff or we're going to go public. Kelemen did that. He's the attorney that's representing Montgomery, who's the CIA whistleblower. So Nunez's hand was forced. He's not some sort of white knight or something. He was forced into coming out or was going to go public. And I think it's pretty interesting what's going to go down with this. It's just going to be so huge that I think I can almost imagine the quote-unquote deep state or the powers that be are going to come to Trump and say, look, this is too big. It's going to cause the country too much problems. It's going to be such a scandal. How about we just throw you a couple fall guys and we, in response, we'll just give you complete control. We'll step out of your way. I really think that's what's may happen because
It'd be a start.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I heard that Nunez saw that his own name, that he had been
That's correct.
That's what I heard
swept
too.
up in it. So,
Yeah.
hey, that's me. Oh, hell no.
He looked like he had seen a ghost. I can only imagine he might have seen the transcript of a conversation he had when he was part of the transition team that he assumed was confidential. And there you are looking at your own words in a transcript. And or he saw something that had to do with Trump's family. I would imagine Melania, Ivanka, Jared, some of those that were being spied on as well. And he maybe felt like he needed to go to the Trump family, go to Trump about his family members. I don't know. That's just speculation. What do you think?
Well, I was my thing about it is, does he want? I feel like there's two sides. Maybe I'm creating a false dichotomy here, but it feels like it's me where you have deep state individuals, which in a previous episode we pointed out were permanent employees that are really kind of running the government as this transition happens, and elected officials. And deep state individuals, they have this lifelong career going on in government. They're not elected, and they're going to fight for keeping their job as long as they can. And then you have these elected officials who should be in control because that's what happens in representative democracy or republic or whatever you want to call it. And so now we're at in this war where previously I feel like elected officials come on board, they go to Washington, and then they get a sit down with the deep state, and the deep state tells them, listen, we run things here, and you're just here for show, all right? And then Trump comes in, and all hell breaks loose because he's not going to put up with that. So my question is Nunes picking sides here? Is he like, you know what? I'm done with this deep state stuff. I'm going with the people. I'm going with the Trump movement. And and that's what he's doing, or that's what I'm wondering if we're choosing sides here.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Dave? You look like you have an opinion.
Yeah, well, as far as the thing is you really, I encourage everyone to go to Freedom Watch and check that out to see. Actually, there's what's called the Whistleblower Tapes, and these were depositions that came up in a court case involving Montgomery, where the real concern is that he said that Trump they had this supercomputer called the Hammer, and what it does is it can get all of your emails, all your voice records, everything. It's a supercomputer, and they've been spying on people for years. And what Montgomery, the CIA whistleblower, asserts is that they're spying on judges, and that's very concerning, especially when you think about the John Roberts decision.
Yes.
So I think this is huge, and I think that the powers that be are going to want to cover this up, because if the lid blows off this thing, like I said, it's going to be
freedomwatch.com or freedomwatch.org.
Hold on, give me a second. I'll pull it right up.
I was going to say I tried both of them, and I'm
hold on.
They also have a Twitter account. So
if they were wiretapping the SCOTUS, that might explain why Obamacare was ruled a tax, huh?
I always wondered that. Back when that decision came down, I was shocked.
It made no sense.
I was shocked, and my first thought was, what do they have on him? Who has something on him, and what do they have? Because it did
corruption
not
runs so deep.
Seem at all in characteristic with John Roberts at that point in time, or even the hearings. I mean, I remember getting excited about the hearings, and we're like, oh man, they've got it, and man, that
even broader
he did it
than
twice.
that.
He did it twice, though.
Yeah. Well, even broader than that, just more in general. Look at all these Tea Party people that have very little experience in politics, and they were elected because they were finally going to give power back to the people. They're going to be constitutional. They're going to drain the swamp, all this stuff in 2010, and then in 2014. And what happens? They go to Washington, and inexplicably they end up just going along with the establishment. And it doesn't make any sense. But when you start to look at it in totality, it seems like the culture of corruption and blackmail is very real there.
I think so too. Do you guys, for example, Trump tweets out this morning this tweet. It has to do with the Heritage, and he names out Heritage and Freedom Caucus. I can't remember the other group. Oh, Club for Growth. And we start looking at the people who are making decisions on this healthcare issue, and you start looking at who's funding them, and it starts. I'm starting to see members go in front of the press, and they look pretty nervous to me. Did you guys see any evidence of that over the weekend?
Yes, just one second, Carrie. It was Freedom Watch USA.
Okay.
.org, and the lawyer that sent the letter to Nunes, he's got a poster on the site. His name is Cari Kelemen with a K.
Right. FreedomWatchUSA.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's got the letter that he sent to Nunes, and Nunes, that's what got under Nunes. But there's also, what's called the Whistleblower Tapes. If you Google that, CIA Whistleblower Tapes, you'll hear some recordings there. You'll see that there where they're talked about in court. This is court. It was released from court that Montgomery said that they listened to Trump, like spied on Trump a zillion times, is that quote unquote, and judges and elected officials. So the CIA has really been running amok, and you can see where Obama or whoever, like Kerry was saying, just some deep state intermediary could sit down with you and say, hey, look, we got this on you. You're going to vote this way or that way.
Yeah, the people have lost control, if that's what this was all about. If this great experiment called the United States of America with their constitutional laws and everything, it's just all out the window.
Yep.
At least right now, until we can figure out how to really, truly drain the swamp of the deep state.
Yep. I wanted to read this tweet to you because it had me laughing most of the afternoon. This is from Ted Lieu. He's a congressman in California, from California. This is from March earlier. I know he said, and I think this is part of this attempt to make things that are shocking to the rest of us seem normal. Do you know that when they try to kind of normalize things that would normally be shocking? Okay, so Ted Lieu says, "We are whistleblowers, press, judges, legislatures, cooks, teachers. We are deep state. We are the American people."
Lou is short for lunatic.
Wait, there you go.
I'm with Joe.
And I'm thinking he throws cooks and teachers in there. We are.
Well, somebody's got to cook it up. Somebody's got to cook it up. Damn it!
But here's the thing. He's technically right. There are cooks that work for the government. They're permanent employees, and so by definition, they are a part of the deep state.
You remember that Steven Seagal movie, don't you?
Which one?
Under Siege.
He was a cook, but he was really more than that.
Okay, I gotcha.
Okay, so let's move on to this healthcare non-vote that happened on Friday afternoon. Joe Dan, what is your take on how that all went down?
Well, you know what? Trump never sold it. Because when Trump's selling something, he's at volume 11. And he is pushing it. He would have told us, the American people, you call your congressman and let's get this done. But they never gave him a product to sell. Nobody knew what was in it. But the thing that bothers me most is how so many of us that stood side by side and shoulder to shoulder to get Trump elected started going at each other's throats and it's calling each other's names, and it's stop it. Let Trump do this. I mean, and so I think he said the nice things he said just to give Paul Ryan the rope he needed. I mean, Paul could have done it. He had the everything he needed to achieve it, to get an achievement, but he failed.
Yes, he
did. Which he always fails. He cannot be trusted. But it's the infighting that it really upset me. But that illustrates the difference between conservatives and liberals. We are individual thinkers.
Yes.
Liberals are sheep. They don't criticize anything that their own party does. Not even Hillary having her own server. Oh, well, that's fine. That's fine. But no, I think it was a good thing that it failed. I think Trump is not going to sign a crap bill. And this was his first experience in the legislative process. And I think he found out how nasty it really was, that it's uglier than making sausage. So
yeah, it's pretty ugly.
I just hate to see people fighting amongst each other. They're supposed to be together.
Well, it's a good point. Dave, do you have a certain spin on it?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, is one thing that annoys me is the balkanization of the Republicans, right? The Democrats, they vote together all the time, no matter what. But within the Republicans, you have this balkanization. You have this Freedom Caucus, right? That kind of disturbed me. But I believe that I'm glad that this actually failed, to be honest with you, because Trump, he's from like a year now saying the best thing we can do is let it collapse so everyone can see how bad it really is. I think if the Ryan Care bill I was for it, but then, if the Obamacare is rescued, then no one's going to really find out how bad it is, and I think they're going to come crawling for a deal.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we were put in a tough spot as Trump supporters, because on the one hand, you're supporting the president and he's supporting the speaker, but what the speaker is serving is a crap sandwich. Everybody hated it.
It's ridiculous that he had so much time and he puts out a bill that divides the Republican Party right down the middle. What the hell? This guy would starve in the private sector. Absolutely starve.
he tried to thread the needle on that bill, and I don't know. I think that Trump has been really blessed, and we've seen time and time again where he has a plan B, and that this is going to, it's kind of like there's a scripture, Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. I honestly believe Trump is called to his position, and he's serving a purpose. And I think this is going to redound to his benefit. I really do.
I think
I
so
agree with
too.
that.
Carrie, do you have any thoughts on this? How do you think it all went down?
Boy, oh boy, do I ever. Well, and I had to do a lot of thinking on it because it seemed so confusing. They called it Obamacare Light, which it kind of seems like it was. And Trump looked like he was just letting it be the Ryan Care bill and staying out of it. And I remember people reporting, and even Joe Dan said, and I guess he didn't get the letter, that he's not asking the congressman to, or I'm sorry, he's not asking his constituents to tell Congress to vote for this bill. But believe it or not, I was a member of the mass email from Donald Trump that urged us to call our congressman. It was right before the vote. Yeah, I actually got one, and it was part of. Did you get one, Carrie?
I got one too. But
Okay.
But the weird thing is on that, before you move on, is that I was one of the people that signed up for his text messages during the campaign, and I got a text message the day before the vote. I guess it was on Thursday.
It was the night before the vote, right?
The night before the vote, and there was nothing in it about healthcare. It was about some kind of. Do you want to renew your subscription?
Yeah, renew your subscription, get a Trump hat.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, that's odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that kind of stuff got me thinking. And, it was a very last minute mass email that he could have been pumping this for days. Get a hold of your congressman, make sure that they vote on this, make sure they pay. But it was like a last minute thing. So obviously you could kind of construe that as meaning that he was really thinking about whether or not he was going to do this. And if he was going to do this, what kind of timing was he going to have on the mass email? And then as I started thinking about more and more, and of course I listened to Mike Cernovich's take on it, which he said that it not passing was a big win for Trump, and there's other people saying that this was a huge loss for him, and of course his detractors are saying that, and they would anyway. No matter what happened, he would say it was a big loss for Trump. So at the end of the day, I'm starting to realize that I think he created a win-win situation here. I don't think it's any secret amongst people who are following him very closely that him and Paul Ryan don't get along very well, and I think that he would probably love to see Paul Ryan go down in flames hardcore. So the whole thing about him supporting him and asking people to support this bill sounds like a major trap to me, and it actually cracks me up that Paul Ryan didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
The fact that he urged people to call their congressman to support it and it still failed kind of made me think, well, why would he do that? Trump's a winner. He's not a loser. Why would he do this? Well, Judge Jeanine had a take on it, and I'm sorry we don't have that clip right now, but if you had a chance to listen to her take on it, it sounds to me like he knew that being a martyr in this situation was actually going to work to his benefit and to his movement's benefit, and the martyrdom would be that everybody was going to be mad at Paul Ryan for embarrassing the president like this, our brand new president.
Yeah.
Look how incompetent you are. And by the way, let's talk about this. Yeah. Let's talk about this bill really, really quick. They had 8 years to come up with something. Obamacare Light. Look, what does that sound like? It sounds like somebody who had a month-long project to do for school. They didn't do it. It's the day before it's due. And what do? You call up your friend who got it done and said, listen, I'm going to go ahead and completely I'm going to copy it. But listen, I'm going to change it just enough so that the teacher won't know that I copied it. And it looks like he took Obamacare and tried to make it look conservative. And that's why they're calling it Obamacare Light. And I think that Trump knew this. I think Trump asked him if he had anything and put Ryan in a situation where either A, he was going to have to admit to the world that they have nothing, or B, he was going to put something out there that looks so horrible that it was going to end his speakership. And so he created this win-win situation for himself. That's my take on it.
I think you're probably right.
Well, I was talking to a few other people on this, and they were just furious. Just that it was just like Pelosi, when we pass the bill, you'll see what's in it.
Yeah,
that was
like,
boning.
no.
Yeah.
This is why we sent Trump there. And Paul Ryan is Nancy Jr. He's a Nancy boy.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
considering that Paul Ryan has been there for 18 years and he's only passed 3 bills. In 18 years, Paul Ryan has passed 3 bills. So he is entering his 10th term shortly. This is a lot. And on top of that, he wouldn't let his fellow congressman, his fellow GOP congressman, see the bill. It was kept secret. And then he kind of like pops it out, and then people start talking about it, and then they would agree to changes to it. And then the next day he would have changed other things about it. So it was, the reason nobody knew what was in it was because it was changing hourly, evidently. I mean, this thing was changed. It was constantly in.
He didn't do his homework.
Right.
No, and then he's up there saying, "Well, this is the promise we made the American people, and we're keeping our word." It's like, shut up. I can't stand politicians. And see, you guys have a lot more patience than I do. I can't sit there and study a lot of these things. I have to go take a walk. I already had one heart attack.
yeah, be careful, Joe Dan.
I mean, and that was back during the election when everything was, I mean, that was it. So I'm not getting into, I'm keeping an even keel now.
Yeah. Okay, so what we've ended up with is we have a Speaker of the House who could not pass a bill with his own party in his own chamber that everyone there ran on. With the president's help. With the president's help. Couldn't do it. So he's been marginalized at least. Whether or not he loses his speakership, I don't know, but he's been neutralized.
He has to.
And now Trump has an excuse to go around him the next time because he was ineffective. Whether or not he's sitting there as speaker,
he's still a speaker, though.
And everyone will understand why Trump had to go around him because he did it this way. And also think with another casualty we have here. We have the Hitler narrative, do we not? Okay, so Trump is supposed to be Hitler. He's supposed to be the businessman that comes into D.C. It's my way or the highway. He's not going to know how to legislate. And what does he do? He goes through the machinations of legislation. Here, take it, do it, be the face, write it, sell it, put it on my desk. And they couldn't do it.
Carrie, do you remember during the campaign he had his website, donaldjtrump.com, and it was very well done, very well designed, and it had all of his policies. And if you actually went in and read all the details, all the things that he wanted to do started with, I'm going to work with Congress to blank, 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 blank. So he was always constitutional. All those never-Trumpers who said that he was unconstitutional and that he was not going to work with the Congress and that he was going to do everything like a dictator. I mean, just read his website and you'll see that he understands the way you get things done properly.
Absolutely. Well, and so then we have the Democrats who are celebrating this going down. But if you pause and you think about that for a minute before it makes you angry, just pause and think about what they were celebrating on Friday. They were celebrating the fact that a program, a massive government program with 17% popularity. They're celebrating that it's still in place and that it has their name on it.
And so's the media, and they're disgusting. They're just doing their little Snoopy dance, and you got millions of Americans who are looking at with the premiums and their co-pays and the deductibles, $20,000 before anything kicks in, and they think it's funny. They think it's funny.
Yeah.
And you know what? People were sick. And Hollywood,
yep.
Geez, please go away. Please go away. Anyway, but yeah, it just they sit and mock. They're just so. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Well, before the show, Dave and I were talking about Phase 2. Phase 2 is the. Now, hang on. Phase 2 is basically Tom Price with a pen. The Obamacare bill and the.
Is he riding a unicorn when he's doing this?
Now listen. Now wait a minute. Just listen to what we're saying here. Okay,
I understand the process. I don't believe it'll happen.
Wait. Is Phase 2 contingent on Phase 1 having passed?
No, there's 1,400 instances in the Obamacare, the American Health Care Act. There's 1,400 instances that apply the law at the discretion of the Secretary of Health and Human Services. For example, we talked earlier about the waivers. Remember all those waivers that were going out? And you posited that what if Tom Price just gave everyone a waiver, right?
Correct.
That's possible. I'm not saying he's going to, but there's 1,400 instances where he can seriously limit the implementation of the law. The law is still on the books, and it's still funded. That's the thing that bothers me most about that it didn't pass, is that Obamacare is still funded, and that's a huge hit with regards to tax reform. That's going to limit the tax reform bill, and that's also going to impact the budget. I stated, I guess shortly after Trump won, there's only really three things he needs out of Congress. And that would be the Obamacare repeal, which I think will come later after it collapses. But Obamacare repeal, the tax reform, and the budget. And then the economy is going to boom, and he'll get his next term.
Well, we need the wall, too.
Well, no, that's already on the books. I'm saying what he needs from Congress.
That's true. That's true.
But who funded Obamacare?
The rest of his agenda he can accomplish through the executive department, administratively. So there's basically three real big legislation things that he needs, and that's Obamacare repeal, tax reform, and the budget. The rest he can do administratively.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're talking about it being Obamacare still being funded. Who funded it?
Taxpayers.
It's your taxes. Your taxes.
Who?
I mean, who authorized it?
Who authorized?
Well, they took. Remember, they took
Speaker Ryan
almost 800.
Oh yeah. Well, see, Kerry, you mentioned earlier that the Republicans had 8 years to come up with a bill. Well, the thing is they never even intended. It's obvious they didn't intend for Trump to win. I agree with that. They're planning on Hillary to win, and then they wouldn't repeal Obamacare. Suddenly Trump wins. Oh my gosh, he wants to repeal Obamacare. So they slapped it together, and just like you said, it's like, let's change a little bit, this, a little that. Yeah, I think it's really obvious to the American people that for the past 8 years they've been blowing smoke up our rear ends.
So it wasn't necessarily just pure laziness. Did they want it? Did they want Obamacare to stay?
Yes.
Oh, they're compensated nicely.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yikes.
They do.
So they're two sides of the same coin.
But David's right. They were so shocked that Trump won. They were convinced that they had turned the country into California, where they have their one party. And they had everything lined up here. They had the media, they had the Justice Department, they had the White House, they had to go down the list, and they lost. It's like, what the? How did we?
Another thing that I've been following is the in Obama's last year, in particular the last 6 months, he his secretaries and him put out a flurry of regulations, and they were planning on Hillary winning and all these regulations standing. I mean, you just take one off the top, the coal regulation that would have cost the coal industry 70,000 jobs and about $50 million. That was a kill shot. That regulation was a kill shot on the coal industry, and they were planning on Hillary winning and that regulation standing. So thank God for Trump.
Well, it sounds to me like Dave just wants the globe to keep warming, I guess.
Well, you know what? On that note, I have to shout out to I'm from a little town in the coal fields of eastern Kentucky and the Appalachian Mountains, who are supposed to be so stupid, but we're coal miners are going back to work. They started last week.
Isn't that fantastic? Good for them. God bless them.
And you know what? When I grew up there, man, I mean, families, the coal business was just so good for so many people, and families, they could go send their kids to school. They had nice homes. In the 80s, man, I'm telling you, it's like time stopped. And it breaks my heart. So anyway, God bless Trump. God bless Trump, and God bless the coal miners.
Absolutely. Trump
because coal keeps the lights on, keeps those silly-ass electric cars going, too.
It does.
That's right.
A lot of people don't realize that 2/3 of our electricity come from coal.
Yeah,
right.
Liberal said, we don't need coal, we have electricity.
It's like, where do you think that comes from?
Okay, you can go lay down now.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have the Freedom Caucus. Anybody want to talk a little bit about that? Because we had a defection today. We had Ted Poe of Texas say, leaving the Freedom Caucus, people. Did you hear about that? Did anybody hear about that?
Yes, I heard about that.
Okay, so what's your take on it, Dave?
Well, my take on it is if you look at the Freedom Caucus and who's funding them, they had a lot to lose if Obamacare fell.
And who is funding them?
Heritage. There's a couple of other organizations.
Koch brothers too, aren't they?
Koch brothers, Koch brothers, whatever you say. But yeah, there's a lot of really interesting that the Obamacare it really it's got a lot of hooks into it that reached into the Republican Party, and like Joe Dan was saying, it's just one big party. A lot of it really is, you know. So I'm as far as the freedom, what just aggravates me is that they can't, the balkanization, like I said earlier. You know, the Democrats, even if they don't all agree on something, they'll all just toe the line and vote together.
Yeah, they will.
Right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, though, I think this is going to benefit Trump anyway.
Yep. Well, I think what we see with the Freedom Caucus is we see the possible being pushed aside for the pure, these purity tests that they have. And ideological purity is something we don't have the luxury of doing anymore. And also think about, too, who put Donald Trump in office? It was a mixture.
Not them.
It was that's correct. It was a mixture of Republicans and Democrats and independents. So
yeah, but at the same time, the promise was to repeal Obamacare. There was no phases, and it was, you know, it was going to open up the competition to where you could buy across state lines. And my family was in the insurance industry, so and I understand that is huge. And then the health savings accounts, and then they're leaving in. They're still going to pay for illegals getting health care and 26-year-old toddlers. Are you what's crazy? These people are crazy. I mean, you know, I'm going to step back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to trust Trump to deal with these jerks because that's what they are. Every one of them. You know, they're all jerks. They all have been paddling their own canoe, and now Trump's going to force them to come together. Whether they like it or not, he's going to force them.
Yeah. Well, he's going to show that we're going to have to all compromise a little bit. And that's become a really dirty word with some people. But
well, it's because the Democrats never compromise.
Yeah.
You show me one time the Democrats have compromised. One. Go back 10 years. Go back 20 years. I'll hang up and listen. Seriously, they don't. They don't budge. But the Republicans, it's like, you know, they didn't have to have we haven't had a budget since 2007.
Yeah,
and all these things. But now we have rules. You know, they're allowed to put a communist plan in place, but we have rules now. You know, we got to follow the rules and procedures. You know what? There's a middle finger there. That's why I'm so disgusted with Paul Ryan and every one of them. But yeah, compromise is great when you have two people compromise, when you have two parties compromising. One party compromising is not a compromise. That turns us into a friggin' communist nation, and that's where we are.
I think so too, but we've never had...
That's what my cousin said.
I think, though, that we've already got Donald Trump working on some Democrats that he might be able to woo over to our side, and Elijah Cummings is one of them. One of his big issues is Big Pharma and how high the drug prices have gotten. And he had Elijah to the White House. He let him make a little press conference from the lawn. This is an issue that's near and dear to his heart. So when we get to some future legislations, I can see Donald Trump attaching something like a legislation to bring down the price of drugs and attach that to something like competition across state lines for insurance.
Yeah, but he's not going to agree to competition because he's a communist.
Well, then we're just going to have to get 60 because that's how they passed Obamacare. They had 60.
That's what we're going to do. In 2018, which is just next year, we're going to have to finish our job. And we're going to have to get these people out that are getting in the way of, I almost said a bad word. But these people like Trump and McCain and all these people who are creating the problems, we got to send them home.
Yeah.
We got to send them home. Our job ain't done.
I do have something to say about, at the end of the day, the Democrats, you know, in the Congress have to celebrate this because bottom line is if they want to put any legislation in, it's got to get past committees, and the committees are stacked with Republicans. Yep. So any Democrat-sponsored bills are going to get killed in committees, won't even make it to the floor to begin with.
Right.
And if they make it to the floor, they won't pass.
Right.
And if they do pass, they're not going to pass the Senate. And if they do pass the Senate, Trump's not going to sign them. So the Democrats can do nothing but stops things. And the only way they can stop things is by getting Freedom Caucus people or whoever picking off. You never forget this about the Freedom Caucus. Those are never Trumpers, okay? Don't forget that. They're the ideologues.
Yeah. Not all of them, but a lot of them
Not all
are.
of them. But that's
Jim
where
Jordan. Jim Jordan
that's-
actually supported Trump, but he's one that I know for sure.
Yeah. But let me
But
tell
some
you.
of the Freedom Caucus, not all the Freedom Caucus was a no vote.
That's true.
So
That's
they said I think it was like 26 no's out of 35. So there's 9. So there's probably I wish they would have went to a vote so we could have seen. But I think Brian pulled the bill, so we don't know. But not the whole Freedom Caucus. There is, I'd say, 9 of them in there that were going to vote with the Republicans. I mean, if you don't like the bill, I understand that, but I just wish they would just vote together.
yeah.
But like I said, it's probably good as a blessing in disguise. It really is.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of distrust amongst Republicans. Even the House didn't trust the Senate. If we pass this and we know it's not great, we know it needs a lot of improvements. We don't trust what you're going to do with it next if we hand it off to you.
But why on earth would we trust them?
Yeah.
They
No, I
earned
mean-
it.
Brother.
Why? I mean,
Well, and then there's the other question, what could possibly be worse than keeping Obamacare? And here's the thing that we need to remember that I think is really important. And it's not hard for me to remember it because I am a victim of Obamacare. I've been uninsured for a long time, $700 a month with a $7,000 deductible. And I heard that my monthly payment is much, much lower than a lot of other people's. And that's just not doable.
No.
I come to realize that if I were to just take that $700+ put it in a bank account and just be safe and don't get hurt and hope that I stay healthy, that I'm probably making a better decision. And think about it. If I get sick or get hurt, I got $7,000 that's coming out of my own pocket before I start getting into the insurance.
Isn't that
And
something?
yeah, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to keep getting worse. And I know I'm not alone in this. And so we're going to have to suffer until Obamacare finally collapses. And what does that mean for the suffering of the people who aren't suffering under Obamacare? Once that collapses, we're all suffering, and we're supposed to endure this so that we know how bad Obamacare is and that we'll demand a replacement or a repeal or something. I mean, just get it out of there.
Yeah.
well, you're not the only one. I mean, I'm a lot older than probably every one of you guys. And I had my heart attack back in August. I had no coverage. I had no coverage because I couldn't afford it. And then I go in the hospital and I say, how much is it going to be? I mean, I'm having a heart attack. And I said, if this is going to cost over 10 grand, I can't afford to do it. I can't afford it. And they said, well, we'll get you a price. I said, I want to know a price. And then anyway,
Yeah.
then
good luck.
they hit me. I get $100,000 bill.
I mean, not to be funny about this, but you literally were staring at a choice between paying for the heart attack treatment or a coffin.
Yeah, well, there's some other hospitals. I'm in the Nashville area. We're blessed. There's a lot of hospitals. I could have gone somewhere else if they would tell you the price, but they refuse to tell me what anything costs. They're like, well, we can't tell you that. It's like you've done thousands of them. What's the average? I'm not going to sit and say, I'm not going to sit and hold you to a specific penny or a dollar amount, but give me an idea. Where does the average cost lay? But they wouldn't even go there. And then they hit me with $100,000 bill. I'm like, oh, hell no. No.
God,
That's like me when I was in real estate.
That'll give you
I'm going to
another
sell you
heart
this
attack.
house. I'm going to give you this swimming pool. And then I'll tell you how much it costs. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's no. You can't do that.
Boy, that'll give you another heart attack, that kind of bill.
Oh, and I'm not paying it. I am not paying it. Take me to
Right.
court. I asked you for a price. You refuse to tell me. Then you hit me with a $100,000 bill. I don't think so.
Yeah, my niece was severely premature, and she was in the hospital for the first whole month that she was born, and she made it out, no problem. And then they got the bill. My brother got hit with a $1 million bill.
Oh,
it was like
no.
it was $999,000.
No.
And here's what's worse. They actually had health insurance, but it was like capped to a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
So they owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's ridiculous.
That's like $30,000 a day.
It's
Yeah,
insane.
That's insane.
It's
$1 million.
insane.
Yeah.
And then that's what happens when government gets involved in anything.
Yep.
And especially if they try to piecemeal some kind of free market thing, like they're talking about doing this Ryan Care crap. You cannot piecemeal. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You either go free market or just throw it away.
Yeah.
But one thing a lot of people are learning about, and Carrie, you and I talked about this, there are some new alternatives out there. It's not insurance, but it's like Medishare and some other things. Now, with my heart attack, it's a pre-existing condition now. So I couldn't go with Medishare because they wouldn't cover my heart for 3 years. But there's another one, and I can't remember the name. That's who I went with. And it's a they'll take part of it the first year, a little bit more the second year, and they'll pay more the third. The fourth year, you're wide open.
Yep.
But my premium, $150 a month.
There you go. Now you're talking.
And now that covers, insurance is not a coupon booklet for you to go get free stuff. Insurance is supposed to be for stuff that might happen, something
That's
that
right.
may happen. And so this plan I'm on that I just signed up with last week, and I'm so excited, I'm covered.
Yay. That's peace
and,
of
so-
mind,
but-
though, too.
I'm jealous.
Oh, anything over $500, as long as it's not to do with my heart, they got it. I
Yeah.
pay everything up to that. I pay. Fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
I've been on the same kind of thing since 2002. It's called a healthcare co-op. It's not considered insurance, but it's built a lot like what the old catastrophic plans were. Before we called them catastrophic, we called them hospital insurance. If you were sick enough to stay overnight in the hospital, that's what it would cover. And so it's like an old catastrophic plan. And as a group, these groups, I think there were up to 23 of these groups, and I think only 7 of them still exist. They're kind of hard to put together. But you've got 7 of these groups, and they lobbied back in 2009 when Obamacare was being put together, and they lobbied and got exempt from the Obamacare penalty. So I have not had to pay Obamacare. I've never paid a fee or a fine for not having Obamacare. But I've had this catastrophic plan now for 15 years. Loved it. It's been great.
Well, that's
for us.
awesome.
Yeah. Been great for us.
I wish I'd known about these options, 2 or 3 years ago.
It was just word of mouth. Somebody said, "Hey, these things really, really work." So,
But that's what Americans do. Americans are they will get off their butt and come up with a new way to do something.
Yeah.
If government would just get out of their way.
yeah. But let me tell you what it's done for me is this co-op that I am with has taught me how to be a good consumer. Because I'm fee for service, I'm able to ask them what is this cost because I'm paying for it in cash up front. And because I always ask, will I get a discount? I've never received less than 40% off because I'm paying at the time of service. Why? Because now they don't have to go chase after my insurance company and extort the money from them 60 days later. So
I experience the same thing, Carrie.
Yeah.
I don't have insurance. I'm blessed with the constitution of a cockroach. And I use and
you would just survive a nuclear holocaust.
Oh,
no, and I do a lot of home remedies and stuff like that. But I'm really blessed with a real high
He
constitution.
does a lot of push-ups too.
Yeah.
Yes, and so, but I pay cash, right?
Yeah.
And when you go in, I'm saying, yeah, I'm paying cash for this, and I say I need to know what this costs, and I get the bill, and I say, oh, I don't need this, I don't need this, I just want this, and yeah, you have a lot. This is what the whole thing with the whole insurance thing is. Someone else is paying for it. People just go to get this. Oh yeah, I want that test, I want this test, I want that, because they're not really paying for it. They pay their copay or whatever. Meanwhile, like you said, these bills come rolling out like Joe Dan $100,000, right? And who knows all the different things? It could have been like a pillow for Joe Dan for $5,000. I mean, these little line items in these. You ever see these bills? There's these little line items in there for the silliest things that are outrageous in pricing.
Yep.
So I was, when Obamacare first came, I just paid the fine. But now that I'm glad the mandate's over, I don't have to pay the fine anymore.
And they will not collect them this year. That is that was an executive
that's good.
order signed on January 20th. In between the parade and the balls, he went in there and signed an executive order that says the IRS may not collect.
Good.
The
They were trying to charge me $3,000 last year for not being insured, but luckily my wife signed me up for the VA and that got waived, but that still didn't give me insurance for my wife and kid. And also, what if I didn't serve in the military? I'd be roped into a IRS bill for $3,000. They'd start garnishing wages if they could, or seizing assets or whatever.
Yep.
And it's just what kind of country we live in when that kind of stuff is happening.
Well, the last thing I would add on those bills I was getting from the hospital is you get one bill. It's like, oh, $300. Cool. I can handle this. And then a bill from Las Vegas. What the hell? And then
It's a lab.
a bill from Portland. And then you start getting bills. I end up with 7 different bills from different places all over the country. Only one was from here locally, where I went to the hospital.
Yeah, and that's something.
and nobody knows. You can't. Well, we're not sure. We'll look into it.
I'd say come and try to collect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told him I'm not paying. I am not paying.
Right.
No.
I will tell you, one of the best documentaries I've seen about this issue has been John Stossel. I think it was in 2006. But he did a documentary called Sick in America. It's broken up into 6 different pieces on YouTube still. But he examined the healthcare policy of Whole Foods, which is the grocery store chain, the natural grocery store chain. And I think the CEO at the time, his name was Bob Mackey, I think. But anyway, the way they treated their employees was they gave them healthcare dollars. They gave them an account, basically like a HSA, but they gave their employees money to spend on healthcare. If they didn't spend it, it rolled over to the next year. But what it did for the employees is it put them in the driver's seat. It made them the consumers. And so now, because they get to keep the money they don't spend, now they have the incentive to be smart with their money, because it's not that invisible somebody else is paying for it. It was them. It was coming out of their account. And so they would shop. You need an MRI? Well, let's go to the Yellow Pages and let's ask who's giving MRIs and how much they are, and let's find the best one for the less amount of money, just like a consumer would do with any other product. We need to get back to the patients being in charge of their own sources, and we need to treat healthcare like any other consumer product so that people can price compare.
But healthcare is a right. It's a right.
Oh boy.
No, don't get it.
Yeah.
I got a question.
I'm kidding. I don't mean that.
But
I don't mean
that's
it.
what they say.
That's exactly what they
Yeah.
say. Like owning a home's a right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
okay.
what caused the real estate market to collapse. Thanks, Barney Frank and you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, now I don't want to get too off track here, but one of the things, the criticism of Ryan Care is like, oh, all these people are not going to be covered. It's like, okay, so
Well, they'll get covered pretty soon.
they have to go
especially
get
if
it.
that's gonna-
You have
right.
to go get it, you know?
Well,
It's like
I
they're
got a
not
question.
forced to be covered.
I got a question for you, Dave. You probably know this. The news is making this whole failure of the Ryan Care rollout or bill to get voted on and whatnot as meaning that healthcare's dead, Obamacare survives. Let's all cheer in the streets. Are they not allowed to revisit this again? Are we under a new paradigm with a President Trump where he'll just demand that this be revisited when the time is right, or is it really a dead issue at this point until it fails?
No. I think right in the day after, Trump said that I said I was going to repeal Obamacare. I never said it was going to be in the first 100 days. He says we're going to repeal Obamacare.
I think they're
It's
getting.
gonna take time now.
I think they're hearing
It's gonna
from their
take time.
constituents, and I think they're mad because Senator Mike Lee dropped a little hint over the weekend that they might renegotiate. They might look at this again.
That bill is actually technically still alive. The Ryan Care bill,
Because
the
it was
American
not
Health Care,
voted on.
It was
It is
not voted
still-
on.
that's right.
So it's still alive. They could vote on it.
And
they could change it, vote on it, and vote whatever. But that bill technically is still alive.
It is. Well, I do think that Paul Ryan got the spotlight treatment, as I like to call it. I think he got shoved out into the front and center, and he fell on his face. He just really, really did. There's really no excuse.
He's a disaster of a leader. He's not a leader.
He's not.
And these, the Washington Post and all them, doing their little Snoopy dances like we were talking about, because Trump failed. Trump failed. They foolishly believe the game's over? Really?
Absolutely.
Trump's going to get him.
Yeah.
Trump's going to win
He always
this.
gets them. He always wins.
He always does, and he will again. And that's why, for the first time, I've stepped back from the political process. I used to be, watch this House bill and watch this House bill. But you know what? I found out if I step back, it's like that saying off the movie Tommy Boy about the sticking your head up the cow's butt. It's easier to see the whole cow if you step back from it instead of have your head up its ass. But
You're killing me, man. You're killing me.
But it's true. I mean, I was going crazy trying to keep up with what these politicians are doing. And that will make you nuts. It will make you completely
Ask
nuts.
Oh, my goodness. I tell you what, we go back to this, and I don't want it to sound glib. I don't want to sound too Pollyanna-ish, but trust Trump. I trust Trump. Eventually, I mean, the guy's smart as a... For heaven's sakes, do you really think he only had one plan? You really think he was going to have his legacy, his brand, his name placed on what Paul Ryan could sell and do? I don't think so.
No, I agree with you. I agree with
Yep,
you. And I
agreed.
think more people need to have that attitude about it. Step back, but they're not going to. Because like we said, watching our friends fight among each other, it just that breaks my heart, really. I hate to see it because you know what? They don't know what's going on any more than we do.
Yeah.
And they're convinced their assumption is right.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I like to look at it, maybe, let's hope, keep our fingers crossed, as a family squabble. And families do fight from time to time, and hopefully we will realize eventually that we're really on the same team and we really want the same things, and so let's work together to get it done. I hope that's what
I love
happens.
your optimism. I really do.
Well, hey, I can give you a real world example. There's a woman, a very good writer. Her name's Anna Perez. I think it's _something on Twitter. And she has a blog that is called totallyunconstitutional.com. And it is great. She's a great writer. Well, she was a big cruise crew person, and she was a never Trumper. And we got into a knockdown drag out, and she blocked me. And she's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and I didn't really care because we got into a real nasty one. Well, here we are all these months and months and months later, and somebody was sharing her tweets that were all pro-Trump, and I couldn't see them. So I said, oh my gosh, I got to contact this woman, see if she'll unblock me. I got a hold of her through her website. She unblocked me. We're friends now. She follows me. I follow her, and everything's all good. So there is a real world example of how we can actually come back together and all get along.
But you know what I think the
Well,
moral
that's
of that
true.
story is that people are starting to realize that Trump was in earnest. A lot of people were very skeptical of who he was, where he was coming from, what does this
Right.
all mean? He's from the outside coming in. And this is not the way we've done it before. There was a lot of healthy skepticism, but I think now that he's in place, and the very first time a lot of people went, wow, okay, maybe I owe some Trump supporters an apology, is when he nominated Neil Gorsuch. And when that nomination came down, there were
Yeah,
a
that was
lot of
strong.
people that were eating crow, that were just basically going, man, okay, I see what you guys saw now. I didn't for a long time, but he truly is who you guys thought he was, and I'm starting to see it too. So I think people are starting to kind of calm down. And I think the Freedom Caucus existed, it formed because they were trying to stop Obama. But now, are we trying to stop our president now? Is that why you exist? I don't know. I think they're there to help.
One of the problems I see is that the Democrats have gone so insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're freaking communists, just full blown.
Yep.
And that now the Republican Party, now we actually could divide. We could split into two parties. We could actually, we have the moderates who could be the Democrats from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
But now we're in one party because the Democrats are freaking crazy.
Yeah,
Right.
they are.
So I hope we can all pull it together, and I think Trump will. I think it may take next year's election to send home the ones who are the problems, and I think we will. I really do.
I hope so. If anyone can do it, this guy has been doing this type of thing. If you can do real estate in New York City with the bureaucracy he had to work through there, he was in a tri-state area, 3 different governors, liberal mayors. I mean, construction
liberal
industry.
everything.
Yeah, construction itself
They
is
even
a
had liberal
bureaucratic.
fire hydrants.
Oh, it's a bureaucratic nightmare to get anything done. I mean, for heaven's sakes, try to add on to your home and you realize how much the government reaches down to the itty bitties of your life. But if Donald Trump was able to build skyscrapers in New York City, I have a feeling he's got this.
He's got patience.
Oh yeah. And
He's
now
got patience.
never forget, the New Jersey Generals, the airline, Trump Airlines, Atlantic City. He's taken losses and he's bounced back.
Yeah.
And as we've been watching this, I call Trump and the whole Trump movement and everything. It's almost like the greatest show on earth. Your hero is going to have some setbacks, but ultimately he's going to win. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. All things work together for good for those who love God and live according to His purpose.
Well said, Dave. I think that's an excellent place to wrap up. You guys are a joy to talk to.
Somebody's behind you.
So we're doing the laundry.
I'm being
That's
stalked.
so awesome.
I'm being stalked. No. Anyway, you this has been terrific, and I so appreciate each and every one of you and your opinions and your point of view. So we will.
So you started recording already?
Yeah, exactly. So we will
Maybe
say
she forgot to
goodnight.
hit me for it. We got to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
After we find out how we can follow everyone on Twitter. So Carrie Smith, how can people follow you?
I am at Smith Radio. Don't forget the spelling. It's SMYTHRADIO.
Great. And Jodan, how can people follow you?
Well, you need to go to intellectualfroglegs.com because my Twitter is so sad. But it's my Twitter is at jodanmedia.com, not .com, at Jodan Media, which is JOEDAN Media, all one word.
Excellent.
But I'm actually only like 95,000 followers away from 100,000.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
good.
So
You're almost there.
I got that going for me.
That sounds good. Dave, how can people follow you on Twitter?
At Dave NYVIII. So at Dave NY Roman numeral 8.
Excellent. And I'm Kelemen Carrie at KELEMENCARI. This is Your Voice Radio. Bill Mitchell might be back tomorrow night. We'll see what time he gets back in, but he will be back very soon. So I appreciate him letting me fill in for him while he was gone, and I hope he comes back arrested and ready to go. Jump on the Trump train. Let's get some victories. So anyway, well, thanks everyone, and we will see you another time. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.